Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Minnesota gardening video. It's been a while, but today we're going to go over a few chores or things you can do right now in the garden while it's thawing out. We're going to talk about growing zones and growing seasons, average, first frost, last frost. Just go over that topic a little bit, and then we're going to go inside, show you what I've planted, talk about what I've planted, and probably plant peppers. So with that being said, let's go. So one thing you can be doing, if this is our asparagus bed, if you've had it covered, you can see all this hay sitting right here. I have already taken all the hay off. This was pretty froze still when I took the hay off, but it's good idea when you can get it removed. Remove whatever you got covering up your beds. Let the sun hit them, thaw them out. And then I also gave them a quick little fertilizer. Just organic granular fertilizer. I just spread it out over across the whole bed there. Next, I cleaned out the strawberry bed. Don't mind all the mess. It's just the garden. It's not going to be on a picture of a magazine, but it's just a garden. We'll get there in time, but it's okay if it looks messy. That's the fun of it. Anyway, back to the strawberries. I basically did the same thing. I took a rake, raked all the leaves and everything out of there, and we're getting a little bit of new growth, but then I did the same thing, just took the organic granular fertilizer and just gave the strawberries a good dose of that. And then in all the other beds, I pretty much did the same thing. Took the hay off, whichever beds had them. Some of the beds I sprinkled some fertilizer in, but some I didn't. And you don't have to do much. And this is also a great time if you have, and this is obviously stuff if you didn't do it in the fall, if you didn't amend your soil in the fall with compost or fertilizer, it's time to do it now. And you just have to take handfuls and just sprinkle it on. You don't have to do much. I don't have my compost yet, but when I get that, I'll top off all these beds with compost. But if you have compost in there and you're just giving it a fertilizer, that's about all you need to do, a few handfuls. And then that bed should be ready to go. I did the same thing with the herbs. Took off all the hay from all the herbs. We don't know which ones will come back or not. There's not many that survive our winters here as it gets pretty cold. We've had sage survive once before. It looks like there's a chance it might survive again this year, and it smells very good out here by the herbs. Looks like the chives are starting to pop up. And then also one thing you can fertilize, if you haven't done so already, are blueberries. So with blueberries, there's two things I'm going to do. These are, we just planted these blueberries last year, so I'm hoping they survive and start growing back, but it looks like there's some buds on them, so I'm just going to pull the wood chips back, basically the width of the bush. I'm going to give them a little soil acidifier here. Blueberries like acidic soil, so I'm going to make sure they get a little sulfur. And then in the spring, I will give them a little dose of a high nitrogen or all nitrogen fertilizer just to get the leaves and everything going. And I just use blood meal. That's straight nitrogen. And then as the blueberries about flower, that's when I'll hit them with all-purpose fertilizer. So I'm just going to do the same thing on this one. Just give them a little dressing of acidifier here. And the same thing with the blood meal. And the rain and everything will wash that down to it. So I hope they come back. Also, if you have fruit trees, now's a good time to give them a good fertilizer. And then if there's anything else you want to do, like pick up like I got to do, it's a nice day here, but I don't have the time to do all that. I've picked up a little. So I think I pretty much talked about what you can do out here as far as mending your soil, fertilizing, cleaning up. As you can see, it's a bright sunny day here. It's not even April. No snow left. I can dig in the soil a few inches before I hit frozen ground. But anyway, I was asked a question a few weeks ago by someone on if I had grown a certain cucumber here. And I think it was like an English cucumber or something like that. And I'm like, no, I have not tried that. And they said, well, it looks like we can grow it here. And that got to me thinking, okay, maybe I should talk about the zones. So I began to tell them, well, yeah, you can pretty much grow anything you want. The zones don't matter when it comes to growing your vegetable garden, other than for perennials. So I'm in, I think they call us 4B now, but I still say 3B ever since it changed. And I will stick with 3B because we still get really cold here. And so when it comes to zones, you might see on, and I know a lot of you might already know all this stuff, but this is mostly for new gardeners, and maybe you will learn something. But on the back of some seed packets, I don't know if you can see that right there, you might see where it says zone. And if you're a new gardener, you might, if you're from here up here in Minnesota, you might look at it and be like, well, I'm in zone 3, I can't grow that. And you would be wrong. That right there is just for is if it will survive your winters or not and come back the following year. In no way does it mean you can't grow that here. Like I said, you can pretty much grow anything you want. And the main thing to look at for that is days to maturity. As long as your growing season is long enough and you get somewhat of a summer or whatnot, obviously everywhere in this world is different. Everybody's in a zone. Everybody has different weather. So I'm mainly going to be talking about here in Minnesota. As long as you have enough days to maturity, you can grow it. Doesn't matter if it says zone 5, zone 8, zone 9, it will grow. So how do you figure your days, how many days are in your growing season? Well, the Farmer's Almanac is always good. You just have to type in your zip code. It's going to give you your average last frost date and your average first frost date. And then it'll give you a growing season, which right here is 120 days now, I believe it says. So all that is the date from your last frost to your first frost. The days in between gives you your 120 days. Your growing zone is based on just one day of the year, which is your coldest day that you average, your average coldest day of the year. So it's only based on one day. And I think here it's negative 30, or I guess minus 30 to minus 35 degrees Fahrenheit. What that's saying is we will get one day out of the year that falls into that minus 30 to minus 35. And that's how they figure out your growing zone. I'm going to be all over the place here, I know, but just bear with me. So now we'll go back to first frost, or average last frost and average first frost, and the growing season. So our average last frost is May 10th, is what it says now. It used to be May 17th. They moved it up a week since they switched the zones to May 10th. Last year, I got stuff planted in the garden on April 14th, I believe. So about 4 weeks before the average last frost date. And right now, believe it or not, it's not even April yet. This is the last day in March, I believe, right? Yeah. tomorrow's April Fool's. And there's some seeds that you say you can plant as soon as you can work the soil. Well, you guys just saw I can work the soil. But I also know how weather works here. And if there's one thing you should journal or catalog or keep track of, it's your weather. Because a lot of people, like me, get antsy. It's a beautiful sunny day, I can work the soil. I want to get outside and plant. Well, I know better. 3 weeks ago, I could have been out here planting. I could work the soil. It was 60 degrees, 50s and 60s for like a week straight. But then, got really cold. All these beds froze back up solid. And I expect that to happen again. So I am not going to come out here and plant because I know the weather here. And I don't want to come out here, plant seeds. Yeah, the seeds might not rot, might not spoil. They still might germinate. But it could be 6 weeks from now before the soil gets to the correct temp and they germinate. So why not just wait a few more weeks to come out and plant when it's closer to our average last frost date, and maybe 2 weeks before. So mid-April again. So in a few weeks again, I'll come out here and do it. But that's another important thing, is the temperature of the soil. That's one of the main things you want to look for when planting. Not always be confined to what your seed packet says on your average plant 2 weeks before your frost date. Because everyone's different. It might work for you, but it doesn't work for me. I know I'm still going to get frost after May 10th. It just happens. We get it into June sometimes. Going back to what I was originally saying, your seeds probably aren't going to rot. They might. Even if it does freeze, that's not going to kill your seeds. They'll still germinate when the soil's ready. And like I was saying, the soil temperature is the key. Most of your cool weather crops that you're going to be getting out, like lettuce, radishes, you want the soil to be right around in that like 45 to 50 degree range for them to sprout. And I know my soil's probably not there yet because it's too early. And I know we're going to get more snow, more frost, more freeze. So I'm going to wait. So I have kept track of the weather and made my own little calendar on frost dates, because as you know, like peppers or tomatoes, let's talk about peppers. They'll say like plant indoors 8 to 10 weeks before your average last frost date. Now, I guess I'm going to go off topic for a little bit before we get back to the peppers, but that's another great way or reason why we start all of our plants indoors, is because we do have a short growing season. So we can get our plants started indoors. It extends our growing season by that much more. And in that growing season of the 120 days we have, well, like I said, that's from May 10th to like September 17th or whatever, our first frost. But that doesn't mean you can grow anything in that time. You know, the first month is going to be cool weather stuff. I'm not going to be able to grow, you can't grow peppers or tomatoes here starting May 10th. That just is not going to happen. They're going to freeze on, I have to cover them all the time, and they're just going to sit there and not grow. That's why we start stuff indoors. And like I said, I'm going all over the place, but you get the idea. So peppers, 8 to 10 weeks. Some packets might say 10, 12 weeks. So if I did that from May 10th, I would have had to start my peppers 4 weeks ago, I think, would have been week 10. 10 weeks before May 10th. Well, I don't plant my peppers or tomatoes or my summer crops out until the first weekend in June. So I take a calendar and I go from the first week in June and I count 10 weeks back. Because the last thing you want to do is plant this bunch of stuff indoors, have them get really big. You don't have the room for them maybe. You're sick of up-potting them all the time. They might stall out and get stressed. And you don't want to put a stressed plant into the garden. It's way better to plant late and only have them growing indoors for 6 weeks and transplant them out than it is to have them end up being inside for 12, 14 weeks before you get them out here. The plants you start later are going to probably catch up to the plants you started earlier and do better in the long run anyway because they're not stressed out. So that's why I start all my seeds based off of when I'm planting them, not when my average last frost date is. Just because I know like I said, I know the weather around here. I know we're going to get frosts all the way up till June. There's a potential of it. It might not happen. I hope it don't happen, but it might. And I don't want to run out here and have to cover up a bunch of stuff just so they don't die. And I travel for work pretty much every week, so I don't want to have somebody else do my work for me. So with that being said, I think I talked about the zones and the frost dates and growing seasons as much as I wanted to. Maybe too much, you might say. I think I got all the points across I wanted to make. There might be something I missed. There always is. When the video's over, I'm always like, oh, I should have said this. I forgot to say this. But the main key is just keep track of your weather. Make your own schedule. You don't have to follow the seed packets to a T. And just check your growing seasons. As long as you have enough days in your growing season, you can plant whatever you want. So like onions, some onions can take up to 130 days. Well, that's longer than my growing season. So that's another reason why I plant indoors. But onions also can pretty much take that whole growing season because you can put them out in the garden fairly soon here. They can survive a little bit of cold. But things like a watermelon, I can't grow a 20-pound watermelon. It's just, some of them take 120 days. And that would be, I'm not starting them indoors 2 months early because they get too big. So I can grow little watermelon here, but I just don't have the growing season to grow the real big ones. There might be some that you can, but I just am not going to try it. The little ones are fine. But with that being said, I think I talked about everything I wanted to here. And now we'll go inside and show you what I've planted so far, give you a little update. Some stuff I've struggled with mightily this year, herbs pretty much. And then I'm going to show you the peppers I'm going to start today, which is 10 weeks from the first week in June now. So we'll see you inside. Alright, so we're back inside and I'm just going to be planting peppers this weekend, but I just want to go over a couple things I said outside, clarify a couple things. When it comes to the average first frost date, like I was saying, I don't follow that too much. However, I just need to clarify one thing. I pretty much follow it for the cool weather crops, the early crops, but I don't for I do not for the summer crops or warm weather crops, as you say, peppers, tomatoes, zucchini, cucumbers, melons, stuff like that. But as far as the cool season crops, I do follow it pretty close to that day, which that day is May 10th. So I just I get a little calendar in the mail every year, community sends out or whatever, and I just go on there, I find the date of the average last frost date, and each weekend I take a blue pen and a red pen, and I just mark every Saturday, going all the way back to 12 weeks with the blue pen for the cool weather crops. And then the red pen, I just go from the weekend I plant outside, which, like I said, is the first weekend in June. is what I shoot for. So from the first weekend in June, I'll do the same thing, mark all the way back to 12 weeks. And right now, if I was going by my average last frost date, we're 6 weeks out from that for the cool weather crops and 10 weeks for the warm weather. So I'm going to do peppers. And if I was following along for just from that average frost date and not have it broken up, I would be planting out tomatoes right now following the average last frost date. And peppers would have been planted 4 weeks ago. So you can see there's a month difference of growing time there. First pepper I'm going to be planting is an every year staple. The Jimmy Nardello pepper. Great flavor, great grilling pepper. And this year I'm not going to be growing nearly as many peppers as I have in the past because we have so many in the freezer right now for our salsas and our sauces. Did I say salsa right this time? I always get picked on for saying salsa. That's how I always say it. But I tried to say salsa this time. And with everything, I'll put 2 seeds in per cell there, depending on how old the seeds are. These are, I just got these this year, so they're 2025 seeds. So I'll just put 2 in there. I'll do 2 Sunbrights. These are really old seeds, so I don't know if I'll get any, but I wasn't going to do these, but I seen I only had a few seeds left. So I might just give them a try and put them in the order pile. Jalapenos. You gotta have jalapenos every year. I have started mostly all cool weather crop stuff. So I have onions, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. This year I'm going to grow I'm going to try to grow out some lettuce for their heads, some head lettuce. So I just recently planted a couple different lettuces and then obviously herbs, which have kind of been frustrating for me this year. Their seeds are just so small. And then I will also be doing a couple lemon drops. These grow a ton of peppers on one plant. So I'm only going to do like 2 plants. I'm going to grow the peppers in the pots this year to save some space in the garden beds. And hopefully, I'm going to put 3 in each one. Because the seeds are a couple years old. Still shouldn't be an issue, but anyway, back to, is there anything else I have started? Oh yeah, so spinach and arugula I have started. Because those are all plants that you can get outside, weather depending, pretty close to your last frost date, if not a week or 2 before your last frost date. And then the last pepper is just going to be the good old Cal Wonder. The seeds are 3 years old. We're going to put a bunch of extra just to use them up since I have a whole pack of ones I saved from last year. So I hope that clarified anything I said outside. And you understand it a little more now. So I think that's all the peppers I'm going to plant for this year. Like I said, not a whole lot. Don't need a whole lot. And I believe I went through everything that I have started already. And tomatoes will probably be the next ones to start that I can think of. Pretty much everything else. Cucumbers, zucchini, melons, I won't start them until basically beginning of May, right around our so-called average last frost date. And right there you'll be able to see the difference again. You want to start them 3 to 4 weeks before your last frost date is what seed packets and stuff will tell you. I plant them pretty much right on the last frost date because you do not want the cucumbers, melons, zucchini plants, pumpkins inside for 8 weeks. That they just get way too big. They will just get stressed and struggle when you transplant them outside. So I did plant some tomatoes though for a little experiment about what I was talking about of average last frost date zones and stuff to see if I can show that in a video. It'll probably backfire on me. Average last frost date will come and it'll be 70 degrees from there on out. But that's Minnesota for you. But with that being said, I'm done for this video. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned something, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.